and welcome to Spill the RT. My name is Eamon Shanahan, and I'm here with Josh Stein. Hi, Josh. How are you doing?
Hey, folks. Hey, Eamon. I'm doing well. How about you? How's your week been?
Look, everything is going great. Halloween is over, and I put the wig away.
Did you get a lot of candy?
I got no candy. No kids came to the door. I got no sweets. I didn't do any trick-or-treating, so I suppose that's my own fault, really, isn't it?
Well, I was the same way. One of my students said to me, "What are you going to be?" And I said, "I'm going to be asleep."
You're never asleep. You don't ever sleep.
Oh, no, I do. I just sleep when everyone else is awake. That's how I get stuff done. The best time to get stuff done is when no one's around, my friends. And that's for me to you, folks. See, we share. We share.
Full of wisdom, Josh, full of wisdom. And where should our audience share? What should they share?
They should like, they should share, they should comment, they should send to 3 friends.
Ding, ding,
they should send us more swag requests. Personally, I'm thinking hoodie, jumper, something. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, where are the dollar signs coming from? We're not actually getting any of these. We have to start finding some artworks in the attic.
No, that's on you, folks. That's on how many people you share this with, because that's all about eyeballs. So the more eyeballs, the more likely we are to have swag that sponsors are paying for. Boom, 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 boom.
You're talking to yourself again, I think, Josh. Anywho, what's coming up on today's show?
So this week, folks, the vessel reopens with suicide barriers in Manhattan. Detectorists, and it's definitely detectorists, find a 5 million pound penny stash. Sotheby's to auction the first AI robot artwork. Unbelievable. The real Indiana Jones Holy Grail has been found in Jordan. And artists donate millions to make the Whitney Museum free, but only for those under 26. All that and a brand new guest are coming up next as we spill the RT.
That tea is being spilled. So let's get on with the show. We've lots to get through. Let's welcome on our guest, Gavin Murphy. Come on down.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Welcome to Spill the RT.
Thank you so much for having me. I have my tea ready.
Excellent.
And ready to be spilled.
Very good. Very good. We're going to have to get you some branded merch.
Yes, please. Yeah. All funded for you, I hope.
Oh, I guess our producer will have to get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's the producer?
You.
And where is their pockets?
Again, folks, sponsorships.
Share,
comment,
because it's jokes. Oh, anywho, Gavin, we are delighted to have you on the show. We've loads to talk to you about because you are a theatrical endeavored person. You love the theater.
Yes, I do. I try. A little bit of both. So I'm mainly frequent myself around theatre circles in Ireland. And I have gotten some success along the way, but I'm also trying to live my big boy job at the same time, and I'm an economist. So yeah, a mix there.
But we talk a lot about auctions and about art finds and about, the whole financial element of the arts. So potentially you might be a really good resource for our artists and for our art audiences. So we'll definitely bring all of your knowledge to the table today.
I've probably in the future myself. Yeah.
Sorry, John, what was that?
I said, and in the future, we're going to use you. Don't worry, you'll be back.
How can we monetize with our art? Interesting.
I still don't have the answers, and I don't know will I.
Neither do we, unfortunately.
We will table that until the next episode, perhaps. But moving swiftly to our very first topic of the day. Josh, where are we heading to first?
We are heading to those who are not familiar with Manhattan. There's this thing called Hudson Yards, which is built over by the High Line. The High Line actually kind of goes through it. So it's a beautiful place. If you're in Manhattan on the west side, you can walk for miles. You're elevated above the city, and it terminates in this large sort of communal area. Inside of that, amongst the actually I say outside because it's a bunch of buildings and things. One of the things that are there is this huge public art object, like place to walk through, called the Vessel. And the idea of the Vessel is it's like multiple stories high and it's infinite. You walk around and you never actually find a resolution, which is part of the point that the artist designed it to be. right? It's to force you to deal with issues of frustration. Well, you know how Americans, or at least Americans, maybe the world, how we deal with frustration? We kill ourselves. So what happened was the vessel was opened and then it got closed because 3 people jumped off of it within a year's time. Now it's back, and in the great American tradition, we don't stop people from trying to kill themselves. We just stop them from actually being able to do it. So there's suicide barriers in place. You have the right to die, but not in public. Basically.
Wait. So they created this sculpture that was supposed to help you with your psychological woes. And in fact, it's just created an opportunity for people to go and voluntarily end their lives.
Look, I don't know if it was about like helping psychological woes, but part of the idea behind the original design, so I understand, is that it's an infinite loop, meaning that you can't really ever find resolution, right? So the whole principle behind that psychologically is you have to make your peace with the fact that there is no termination here. Well, people decided, no, there is a termination. And I'm not trying to make fun of suicide here, but they had to close the damn thing down because the design did not exactly do what it was supposed to be doing.
Oh my goodness. Where's your view on this, Gavin?
Very ominous altogether. This kind of the idea that you're climbing to the top and you have nowhere to go, so you jump is absolutely terrifying, particularly for a piece of art to I suppose push that on you. What I found interesting when I read about it was the kind of, it felt like half attempts to kind of solve the issue. I just thought that was madness.
So you got to remember that this is, while this is public art, the United States, what that usually means is, unless it's on actual government property, that there's a developer who owns the space, right? So there's a Hudson Yards company. And so it's not necessarily in their best interest to like try to find a solution fast. They just try to do stuff to like ameliorate as quickly as they can. And I got to say, like, it's not as ominous in person as this particular shot makes it look like. When you're in person and you're walking on the High Line, you got all this greenery around you in the middle of the city. And then you come to this space and you can sit on these wooden benches and you can see this. You're not looking at it at this angle. You're looking at it more of like a 30 or 40 degree angle. So it doesn't look as overwhelming and ominous, but it is this odd kind of like vessel's not a bad term for it. It's this like giant egg cup that's in the middle of this kind of corridor. And so it's kind of weird. It shows up out of nowhere. And again, it was shut down for years. So people kind of just got used to walking around it rather than actually walking through it.
It's America's answer to euthanasia, maybe. I don't know. But it's like, I don't know. It's just a bit, the sculpture itself, I think, looks kind of cool. But, you know, I don't understand. It does,
So,
I can't.
you know, the Golden Gate Bridge was notorious for people trying to kill themselves, right? And so it took literally like 30 years to erect suicide barriers on the Golden Gate. They knew like every year there was going to be like a dozen people that would kill themselves. It just didn't matter. It wasn't financially viable. This is the United States. Like everything's about the bottom line. And people can argue about whether that is the ultimate answer here, but right? America's not a country. America's business. That's Brad Pitt, my friends. He said
aside
that,
from
not
putting
me.
barriers up on it, have they done anything to kind of do the mental health preventative measures in and around this sculptural piece? Or is there any sort of injunction?
You're in the middle of a huge attraction for tourists on the west side of the city, right? The High Line had been these railroad tracks. They were elevated and they were left to decay for many, many decades. And then they were rehabbed. It's a world-renowned rehabilitation of urban space. And it really is very special. It's all free. You can walk around it for miles. And in New York, which is like the most expensive place to do nothing, having a place like that is really cool. But the High Line is different than the vessel. Maybe they should have called it the coffin. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of people that are killing themselves here, but
oh dear, let's spill this tea before we start saying something that will get us cancelled. Which there are plenty in this particular podcast to enable that. So moving swiftly along, we are looking at some pennies now, and they're Spenny Pennies.
we are headed off to Southwest England. For those in America who probably are not aware of this, there's this huge phenomenon in the UK because they have all these things that go back to the Romans, right? And so there's all kinds of metal out in the middle of fields. There's all kinds of stuff from battles. We have some of this. We have like Civil War battles, Revolutionary War battles, but this goes back to 1066 to 1068, right? We are talking a millennia ago that they found this. And they found a huge stash of several thousand of actual silver pennies. And it went up. A historical society bought it. This is the way things work in the UK, right? In order to preserve this as cultural heritage, it gets purchased and then actually gets put on display afterwards. And so we're looking at the haul that came from this. Really kind of cool. I think. Is it American? I think this is kind of cool.
It's like what, $5 million or something, or £5 million.
Yeah, that was that's what the society paid for it.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool. I don't think you'd find these in the Trevi Fountain though. So I think it's quite cool that we have access to seeing these as they tour around the UK in the next couple of months. But it's 1,000 years old. Amazing.
What do you think, Gavin? You're the economist here.
A lot of money on coins, especially I think what their value was like 50,000 altogether. Personally, I'm not a coin collector kind of guy. I do think it's amazing.
You like stamps, isn't it? It's stamp collecting you do.
Yes, yeah.
But it's kind of similar to that, right? Because numismatism is about originals that are different in some kind of way. That's what makes the print run special, right? And so sometimes with coins, it's exactly like that. It's the misprint or the right kind of stamp from the die that's no longer in production. In this case, it's just really old stuff.
Yeah. I think they look cool. And I like the fact that they're not all, symmetrical, or they're not all the same size or the same shape. They all are a bit kind of asymmetric, which is quite cool. And I don't know, it's definitely something to witness and to enjoy. But I would like just one of them if possible.
I hope they don't display them in that pile. I feel like there might be better ways to go about the process. And then maybe I'd find it more interesting. I feel like the pile is a bit jarring for me.
Do you want to create an installation piece or something with them? Just
yeah.
Well, typically, they go looking for like really special kinds of pieces. They hope to find things that are like jewelry from royalty and those kinds of things. I think what makes this special is just the mass of them. Because when people think about pennies in today's world, right, they're literally throwaway money. It costs more to make them in many instances than their actual value. And yet here is actual silver pennies, which have great value. And then there's the cultural significance behind it. And so it speaks to, we've talked a lot about how you have like value in terms of the use of something versus value in terms of the collectability, or in terms of like ephemeral values that are cultural in nature, right? And that's certainly what this is.
I mean, if they were presented in a nice, leprechaun's pot, potentially, bring the Irish back into it a little bit.
Yes.
Wouldn't it need to be gold then, not silver? I'm just saying.
Paint them. That'll look good. I think that penny is spilled, or at least fallen on
the
floor.
We flipped the penny.
We flipped the penny. That's all we're flipping. Okay. So the next story that we have is about this wonderful woman here, who is not at all.
Stop calling that a woman. I hate all the pronoun discussions of this world, but in this case, I am going to stand on pronouns. That's an it. That is not a she.
That is an
it. That is a thing. This is the uncanny valley revisited to the nth degree.
I mean,
this is Sotheby's. I hate you, Sotheby's. I hate you, and I hate this nonsense. This is artwork done by AI, where the brushstrokes were done by a robot guided by the AI. That's the bottom line of this story.
This is where it's going. This is where the AI is going to. We're now training AI to be able to train itself to create its own identity and its own being, and now we're fucked.
No, it's going to be a fad. It's going to be a fad. Trust and believe. No, absolutely. They can create art all they want, but I genuinely think there's a point where, people realize that they want to see human interaction. We've even seen it recently on Instagram, these pushback. There's already pushback against these AI images and this AI art. And I can't, absolutely. I think the first 2 or 3, they're going to be able to get that for what over $100,000, over $100,000. Fair enough, as the first of its kind. But I think once these start being, on the factory line, they're going to be gone. The people aren't
Who
going to see their worth anymore.
who is the
Hopefully from
beneficiary of?
your lips.
Hmm?
Hopefully from your lips, Gavin, because when Beeple did the NFT thing, right, there was a $68 million sale. Nobody is paying $68 million for NFTs anymore by any means, right? So hopefully this is the NFT version of this in the AI space. But I think both of us have this fear that it ain't in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that it's a lot more intelligent, for the want of a better word. It's a lot more rounded. It feels like it has a lot more life to it than what NFTs ever has. Or even like cryptocurrencies or anything like that. It feels like it has a lot more levity, and I think that's what's really scaring a lot of people.
No, it just seems to me more about the iterative nature of the generative AI rather than like that there's something special here. NFTs could have this as the image, right? Like the NFT is the mechanism delivery. This is literally about, well, I want to pay $200,000. That's the value on this piece. It's $180,000 to $200,000 at auction. And is that because it's actually valued that? Well, we start to really immediately get into issues about value and that kind of thing. But it's also this question of, are you paying because it's a unique and a one-off? Well, no, because you could do it again exactly the same way.
Absolutely. I think if you were to compare this to the Mid-Journey artwork that we were talking about last week, and to think about the legitimacy of both these pieces, where are your feelings on that?
You asking me or Gavin?
Either of you.
To me, neither. It's the same issue, right? Like
Mm.
I think that without a human hand, it ain't actual art. It's
Isn't
graphic design. It's reproducible. It's just not. That's why it shouldn't be copyrightable for the same reason.
isn't it like a glorified printer? Um,
Right.
Yeah.
like that's what it feels like.
Mm.
It's going
Bingo.
it's going to be the same every time, and there's something about perfection that I think people don't like. And I know, look, the pictures as they stand don't look like perfection, but there's something that people crave, organicness in all art forms, and this is everything but
Okay.
uh
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But that's about the training. Because if you decided you wanted to train the AI on a bunch of much more what we would call painterly, meaning brush strokes, the imperfections are more visible. If you wanted to train an AI to do that, they could do that
Mm.
in the same way, right? Because it's coming for theater too here, my theater friends, because you could easily have these creatures that are becoming more and more lifelike in their control mechanisms, then being the ability to like spontaneously speak on stage, and so much for spontaneous theater.
Well,
Or
we see that already. We see it in Abbot Voyage. In London, we see it in what we saw in the exhibitions where they've got the artists who are speaking to us. You know, in those human interfaces that
yeah,
are AI generated or AI coded. But I suppose, where is the human interference here in this robot? Has there been that much involvement in them, and have they been regenerating their knowledge base over?
well, the AI, right, instead of having the AI direct human hands in some way,
Mm.
right, or as often happens where there's like a direct mechanism of like a paintbrush attached to a windshield that moves around, this is like physically able to do that, right? It's
Mm.
autonomous, but it's not autonomous in the sense of thinking. The AI is directing the hands, the arms of the robot. It's a robot,
Yeah.
right? Like your car gets put together by robots. This is CAD CAM. This is like a graphic design program that's been physicalized into the world. And they could program it to always be random, right? So it would never do it the same way twice. But they also have the ability to program it to do it exactly the same way over and over again if that's what they decide. That's not art.
No, no, it's not. I think we're in a can of worms here that can continue to spill, and it's something that we are talk about often on Spill the RT in relation to AI, because it is such a massive topic at the moment, and something that we're all kind of struggling to comprehend. I think hopefully, I don't
Well,
know.
what aggravates me is like something like autonomous vehicles. We
Yeah,
actually asked for that,
yeah,
right? I remember as a child reading science fiction stories. We wanted vehicles that could drive for us.
yeah.
I don't recall ever saying, hey, I want computers to do my artwork for me.
No.
That is Harlan Ellison. I have no mouth, but I must scream territory. This is where it gets taken out of your hands, literally, and replaced by something I didn't ask for at all.
Yes.
No thanks.
Right. Well, that tea is spilled for now, and we will reattack the AI robot once again in the future. But for now, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to just tell you all about what's happening with Nua Collective. So be right back. Nua Collective, a visual art community, is home to 20 artists and hundreds of their artworks with fresh work added weekly to our online collection at www.nuacollective.com. Here you will find our Nua Journal featuring articles and podcasts, which are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Our beautiful print publications highlighting our collaborative collections are available to buy. Perfect for your art book collection. And now that we're in November, heading towards the Christmas season, perfect for that Christmas tree gift. For Culture Night 2024, we launched Scatter, our brand new virtual exhibition. Check that out now as well at www.nuacollective.com/scatter. All works on our website are for sale, of course. Remember to support the living artists. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Remember, that doesn't cost anything. All of your shares are so welcome. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us spilling the art tea in our weekly roundups every Monday.
We see you. Fear of missing out. This is episode 24. Who knows what episode 25 could be? Who knows?
24 hours in the day. You could actually watch one for every hour. You could do a full day of watching Spilling the RT now.
Well, no, they're about half hour each. So you can do a half day. Well, say that again, Gavin?
I said I'd do this over Harry Potter anytime. Yeah.
I hope that's not a damnation towards Harry Potter.
Well, stand over your own work, Eamon.
I will stand over my own work, our own work. However, we do love a bit of Harry. Anyway, yes. Bill the RT is coming every weekend, every week. You get it in your feeds with our shorts on our Instagram channel, on our TikTok channel, on YouTube, everywhere. You can find us wherever you like. So do follow us. Get in touch if you need to come on and share your views with us. You can do so. Email us at hello@nuacollective.com and you can come on and join us like we have had all of our guests in the past. So do so if
we're friendly.
Yeah, we're friendly. We're nice people. We
mostly.
Don't fight. Sometimes. It's all good.
So speaking of standing over things,
okay,
off to Petra Jordan we go.
There's your segue.
So you all may remember that there was a complex or a building in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was filmed as part of the film. And actually below there is a series of warrens and caves and complexes and things. And so researchers from the University of St. Andrews went a-digging. And what did they find? A fully intact milieu, including a ceramic vessel, speaking of, that they're calling, right, something straight out of Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail, 'tis the Holy Grail.
It has been found, and no one's face melted.
No.
Because it's not the Ark. See?
I'm useless because I am rubbish with movie references. But anyway, I will put my hands up and say that I am not a massive Indiana Jones fan. But
nor am I.
This is not about Indiana Jones. You're missing the point. Huzzah!
We're not
the
missing
Holy
the
Grail
point.
has been found. It's November. It's the holidays. Huzzah!
Huzzah! Did Jesus drink out of that chalice or something? Is that what it's about? The Holy Grail?
I do believe. I mean, I am not Christian, so I am probably not the person to be asking about this. But nonetheless, I do believe it has something to do with Christ's blood. Yes.
Okay. Well, it's all.
Isn't it just
that they found this and it was 2,000 years old? But I think this is something that they're really excited about because they've put some great truth in this. They've also found, I think, was it 12 skeletons?
Yeah, it was a whole setup.
Mm.
It was a whole setup. What were you going to say, Gavin?
Isn't it just like the name? That's what's hooked me. What more so than even the Indiana Jones, like Secret Tomb Under Ancient City of Petra. Like, just that sounds like an episode title to me. It's funny though how like art and like culture and like, you know, art kind of makes that more exciting. We should, well, you know, debatably should be more excited about the fact that we found this chalice, but everyone's going to hook onto the fact that, but this is Indiana Jones thing.
Yeah.
So it's just mad.
cultural appropriation.
Without Hollywood, no one would be thinking that the Catholic Church has all these kinds of machinations happening behind the scenes, right? Like, thank you, Tom Hanks.
Yes. Thank you, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is doing
thank you, Tom Hanks.
So apparently I look like Tom Hanks. I got that before.
Me too.
I don't anymore.
I do see it. It's definitely,
yeah.
It's without the hair though. It's the thing.
It's with take the hat off. Oh my God.
Well, now it's more, it's like a younger Tom Hanks.
Thank you. Well, considering he's what, in his 50s now?
60s.
Well, yes, I am.
Maybe even his 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a kid, he could be about 70 now.
Dear. So this World Heritage Site is something that has really brought to the front another example of what it is an important thing to do in order to save our cultural heritage sites and to save the cultural identity of what we're doing. But I think they were just really excited.
We should throw tomatoes at it, right? Spray paint it. Pink spray paint.
No, because there's no value in that. They're not celebrities, so there's no value. Do you not recall that, we should be throwing tomatoes at celebrities and famous artwork because that's where the value is?
I got to put it on TikTok. How else would I get? I need an audience.
This is a direct response to some of our keyboard warriors.
Oh, really?
I see you.
It's a slight in joke, Gavin. You should follow us.
That's amazing.
Nua Collective art. There's plenty of comments. Yes. Will they be watching? Will they call us out on this? Who knows?
Well, you know what they say, an idiot is born every minute. And man, there are plenty of idiots out there responding to what we put out. Yes.
We call them idiots in Ireland.
I don't have the right accent. I was going for it.
Well, it's not as bad as my American accent.
I was about to say, given how badly you mangled American English last week, I don't feel too
my
bad.
accent was last week, but it was an amalgamation of 10 different American accents, I think.
I don't know what it was. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful disaster. It was glorious.
Right. Moving swiftly along, we're going to go and see now this wonderful artist who donated $2.25 million to the Whitney Museum so that all of those lovely people under 25 can gain access for free.
Yeah, so this was a thing because an artist donated that money, and then there was a philanthropist that had put up money. So it's like $5 million for a program that's going to go on for several years. Now, my bone to pick here is, wait, let me get this straight. So if you're 26 and older, too bad, art's not for you. But if you're under 26, guess what? Come on in. This just aggravates me. I believe in universal design, right? If you're going to make art free, then make it frickin' free. See, I was good there. I said frickin'. You're welcome.
Okay, Gavin, you feel like you're bursting. Say something here.
Well, no. Well, firstly, I'm not sure if I'm going to help myself or not, because I'm, as an under 25-year-old, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh my God, there's a Whitney Houston museum. So I won't really help myself out much there. But yeah, I suppose that I don't know. Is it, well, potentially for a reason that are the artists of under 25, or are there artists under 25 anymore? Are they being sucked into things they shouldn't be sucked into? And should they, do we need to encourage them in any way we can to consume art and to like it and to, I don't know, is that being lost today? Over 20?
I don't think that's what's motivating this, right? Because the Whitney usually charges like $30 for a ticket, right? And like any other organization of serious size, it's actually donors, right? People that start to come in, love the institution, have money, and then give in much larger numbers than the original $20 or $30 ticket price was, right? So the cynical part of me says this is not about exposing people to culture so much as exposing certain kinds of people in New York who are moneyed, who are young, and capturing them young. To me, it's no different than McDonald's, essentially. It's like, here, have a free Happy Meal, except it's art, right? Come in young and we'll keep you coming back. And then, we need some cash from you.
I get the hook. I get that. But I think, they do a similar thing in theater where they offer under 30s reduced price tickets and that. But I mean, I'm a 32-year-old artist that does not earn a shit ton of money, and would like to still see the theater or would like to still go to the gallery. And it's just not part of disposable income, you know, and I'd still like to go and see these things. And as a practicing artist or a practicing maker, it's very difficult for me to keep up and engaged with everything that's happening if I'm not able to afford to go and actually see it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because it's like how far can you go? Like you could go to like I suppose ask everyone how much they're willing to pay or how much they're able to pay and charge them that price. But that's unfortunately, I suppose it's like trying to just put people into two bins of likelihood of, this person could access, it's accessible for this person, it's not accessible for that person,
Yeah.
or less likely to be. So yeah, it's a strange one.
And there are places that are pay what you can pay, and that's exactly how they fund, and it works out in the end. To me, the logic here, though, is right. Like there's two different impulses. Is this about cultivating future visits from people and future financial return, or is this about giving people access? And if it's about access, well, I don't know that the under 25 set is really begging for access to art, but I can tell you that people that are 40, 50, 60, and 70 in New York, because there's plenty of working class people that are still there despite the gentrification, they're not going to ever afford a $30 ticket.
No.
That's never going to happen, right? And there are some really cool things in the Whitney. The Whitney has a museum, as it's designed as an entire art project itself. So even the elevators are art projects that just kind of wandering the building. But most people who are there around them in the city, they're not going to be able to drop $30, not when a hamburger is $20.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just not realistic. And so I don't begrudge helping out younger people. I just think help out everybody who can't afford this, right? Make it means tested if you want to do it that way. Like, I don't care. But it's like basically saying, here's an open ramp for some, but not an open ramp for others, and essentially slamming the door.
I think we had a similar sort of issue a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about when the immigrants were coming to the UK to see different cultural spaces, and the UK were offering free entry to them, and I suppose, or for refugees, and I was just trying to kind of match this up with that, and it's similar but different insofar as, they're trying to increase awareness and increase access to people who potentially won't have the funds or the means to do so, and I'm back to my same theory of what I was a few weeks ago, in that I think that everybody should have equal access regardless.
Well, there's a tacit admission here, right, that art has value. Because what we're saying, different people should have access to this. So implicitly what we're saying is there's something here. The question becomes then, who should have that access? And what I keep arguing is, if this is cultural heritage for all, then it needs to be for all, right? Whether we're talking about stuff from the past, like Stonehenge, that don't spray paint on that, or we're talking about art from living artists, like that belongs to all of us. You either take that seriously or you don't. I happen to take it seriously. What do you think, Gavin? You're the economist here.
Yeah, again, it's like this paradox, and it's something that, you could, it's one of those things that you could discuss, and there's different trains of thought, and even different economists have different trains of thought on how you should go about it, and what's practical, and especially for, as I've already expressed my knowledge of what's in the Whitney, but I'm sure it's a very expensive, museum to run, and it's, they have to make it sustainable for themselves so that they can continue to do what they do at the same time. And it's hard to know what motivates that, is because motivating, it could be motivating for them to use that kind of that structure in order to make sure that they're able to better the museum, that they're able to better the works within it, that they're able to, and it's kind of, you can never step inside those directors' shoes. You'd hope it's not all based on this kind of grotesque kind of profit maximization model, but you hope that it's for the good of the art, and I suppose you're never going to know.
Well, in New York especially, right, there's two big art museums. There's the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which has always been thought of as the People's Art Museum, and then there's the Whitney. And the Whitney has always been seen as much more exclusive, and it's not lacking for donors. They're literally in the process of doing yet another expansion in concert with the city. So that tells you, like, getting anything done in a big place like New York is impossible. If the city's willing to help you, they want cultural institutions to grow in certain kinds of ways because it's tourist money and because donor money. And it's just like this cycle that feeds on itself. And the Whitney is part of big money. Right? Like there's money and then there's big money.
Yeah.
The whole Whitney org, the people that are on its board, you don't get put there because you're just an artist. You get put there because you got real money. This is an artist that donated $2 million. How many artists do any of us know who've got 2 million sitting around, let alone 2 million they can afford to give up as a donation?
They're generally the high commercial value artists that are reproducing.
Yes.
But I think kind of echoing again from what Gavin you were talking about with the practicalities of things. And I know the Whitney is probably excusable from this particular example, but like the UK just had their budget and they have increased funding by 2.6%, I think, for their next year. And the only thing that will really do is will fund the increase in the minimum wage, the increase in the cost of inflation. It's not necessarily actually going to help progress the gallery itself or progress the theatre or progress the opera house or whatever it is that funding is going towards. It's really only going to keep the wolf from the door. And I think that there's a lot of kind of celebration that people are having towards the UK government for increasing this by the meager 2.6%. But in fact, there has been how much of an increase in inflation as well, you know, to kind of that's not even going to merely cover it.
Yeah, and you're kind of always playing catch up with this, and increase in funding funds inflation itself. It's trying to find the happy medium, and perhaps it's all about being as close to the outcome as possible. So you want to put your funding that actually develops the art, that actually develops. You need to try to find the point that's as close to that as possible, rather than, I suppose, the further you remove yourself from that, the further it drives all the other issues.
Yeah.
The last statistic I saw was in the UK. It's something like 280 billion pounds or euros, however you want to measure it, that the cultural industry writ large produces, right? And yet the money that gets spent to support the cultural industry in the UK is literally like 1,000th of what that return is.
So like currently 3 million.
It's just insane. It's just like even if you want to use the return on investment as your metric, you want to use the straight up economist, right, business kind of way of thinking about debits and credits. Well, clearly there's a multiplying effect here that's not being like there's a fireball engine that happens despite not having support, not because of it, right? Like if you want a virtuous cycle, give it cash and then let's see what happens. This is not rocket science to me.
I'm scared of the Irish statistic, if that's the British statistic.
The Irish actually tend to be a little bit better, really.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is
yes. Thank you, Apple. That's because of tax issues, right? That's not.
Meta, thank you, pharmaceuticals. Thank you, all of the AI generated hubs that are now created in Ireland.
Antarctica is melting, but Ireland has more money to support living artists, so it all balances out in the end.
Ireland are actually doing a great job at the moment. We could still get more, but we are, in fairness, they're doing a great job. The UK are per capita maybe on a different scale, I suppose. That's the other side of it. So this nicely kind of segues in and also probably overlaps with what you wanted to talk about, Gavin, for our Spill the RT episode today. Is there any kind of main point that you'd like to kind of bring to the table?
Yeah, so I guess after all that talk on economics, I am an economist and I have an economics background and a theatre background. So I've been always thinking of ways to bring economics into the work that I do. And I suppose I'll, in particular, recently I did a production of Cats, and I was trying to think, this is more of a thought now than a kind of a story or something to leave you with. But I suppose I was thinking about what keeps people interested, what keeps people entertained, and back to the previous point on under 25s, and I suppose what keeps them entertained. And currently it's the phones in their pockets, And it's the constant dopamine hit of, scrolling through TikTok, or, even pressing a like button, or doing all those great things that we need them to do for this podcast. But it's difficult. And I think in the art world, and particularly in the theater world, how do you get people to sit through a 2-hour production and not feel like they want to reach for the phone in their pocket, because that's going to give them more of a hit? How can you, and especially when we're dealing with works that have been written 30, 40 years ago, especially in amateur theatre in Ireland, and they're not, you could have long drawn out scenes, you could have, how do you deal with that? And I suppose something that I've noticed that is happening in theatre, particularly in the UK, and I think dipping into the US as well, is this sense of, let's hit them with dopamine. Let's put them in the middle of a production. Let's create these immersive spaces. Let's, like, not give them a choice, but to feel as though they are part of a production from every second. And that in itself is giving those dopamine hits. And funny enough, they're the best shows I've seen recently. And maybe that's because I'm a victim to that as well. I've been on my phone scrolling through TikTok, and I get that same dopamine hit. But I like productions like Newsies on the West End was in the round, Cabaret was in the round, and they were coming through the audience and engaging with you. Guys and Dolls, again, all these, they're probably, up there with the best shows I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's because they force you to feel something, and they force you to they give you that dopamine hit. You're not passive anymore. And I think that's the thing with, what social media is doing, is that it's creating a sense of, we're active in it. It's almost like a gaming sort of style. So I brought that to my production of Cats, in that I put it in the round. I, had people weave through the audience, and I saw the benefits of how people responded to that. And I think it was probably not done much at all in amateur theatre in Ireland, was the idea that we're going to really go immersive, and we're going to, usually, there's kind of a, you're sitting here and I'm looking over there at a piece of art, or at a, at a piece of theatre. But I feel like the reaction to it was amazing. And then secondly to that, I suppose, coming back to that art piece rather than the theatre side, I'm not, you've probably discussed it before, but an art installation in Dublin, the Portal.
The Portal.
Yeah, which is on O'Connell Street. And it's this same thing. This has gone crazy. This art
The Portal!
Yeah. But isn't it funny how all of a sudden we're giving these people dopamine hits, essentially, or we're making them feel like they can engage, interact. And it's probably, whether we like it or not, the most popular art installation Dublin has seen in many years. And it's it's what makes the headlines. It's what makes the news. And whether we like it or not, it's, I suppose, leaving you with that thought, this is all well and good. This is what people are having to do to, stay relevant. Artists have to do to stay relevant. Theatre has to do to stay relevant. But I suppose my thought is, like, where does this end? Do we keep going? Do we keep trying to, match that? Do we, surely this has to, or do we pull it all back and try to, become, I suppose, go against what we're being trained to become, I guess. If that makes any sense at all, I don't know, but...
No, it does. It makes huge sense. I think what you're talking about, all of the shows that you listed there, even The Portal as well, which we did cover back in our earlier episodes. Don't watch them because they're not as clean as the newer ones.
No, watch them. Watch them, damn it.
See how we've grown. But all of those productions, including Portal, cost an absolute fortune, and are high budget and high intensity. And the problem with that is that anyone who's trying to be not necessarily just emerging, but who wants to push new work or wants to start new things or try to kind of push the boundaries, you need to be somewhat educated in the greater side of it. And I think that's where there's a bit of a miss. And Lynn Gardner of The Stage recently wrote about how critics go to see these big spectacles and how they are they're the more popular mass produced productions that are, you know, almost engineered in a way that they are reaching a particular audience. And that if they went to see anything on the fringe or any new writing piece or something that was a little bit off the wall, they would be completely out of their comfort zone because they wouldn't know where to start, or they probably wouldn't feel like they know that this is a different type of art form or a different sort of approach. Josh, you're shaking.
That's just no. It's just this is plus un champ, plus un la même chose, right?
Yeah.
This is actually how outsider art develops because it's a sine curve, right? And so what I would call what you're describing, Gavin, is this is like Baz Luhrmannification of what the theater becomes. But that's just spectacleization, right? And the more that that goes, the more opportunity there is then for those who can't afford that to actually create a space for themselves, precisely because maybe they are doing it in the round, but there's nothing in terms of set because they can't afford it.
Which was
right?
my
So
production of Cats.
that's
yeah. Which was
right.
that,
So I just think that creativity, like, there's these like choke points, and creativity is what gets you through it, right? And you actually need that because it makes you do things different.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And do you think, so you think that we're not going to have to, we're not running on the treadmill, I suppose, and that the treadmill will slow down and that it will go a different direction in terms of we're not the under 25s, the Gen Zs or the Gen Xs or whatever the next one is, that they're not going to be like, I suppose,
No, we're never going back. We're never going back, right? Like Las Vegas-ification of experience. That is part of this now forever, right? Kusama, Van Gogh. These are things that are not about experiencing the artwork as an artwork in the way that we think of it. It's about experiencing it as an experience. And that is what people want because it's not digital. Even if it's digital, it's the experience of being with it in a physical place, right? And so there's an anti-AI, there's an anti-digitization impulse that's there.
Yeah.
I think, though, that spectacleization we're not coming back from that. That's going to be there. But the more that grows, the more there are always then places kind of in the dark for anti that or not that.
Yeah.
Right? A spectacle. As one word, right?
I love that.
Right? Not anti, but a spectacle. I'm doing something different. That will always grow in the shadows. It just takes time for that to be recognized. And so, like, the portal is exactly art of the moment, right? That's exactly what they will point to 100 years from now and say, that's what they were doing in the 2020s. But that doesn't mean that that's really what the artists of the 2020s are really doing beneath that or inside of that.
And perhaps there's burnout, how far can you go? You can, like, spectralization, you can only go so far. And I don't want to, there comes a point where you don't want to see the boat pushed out any further. And there comes a point where if everything turns into a spectacle, well, then nothing's a spectacle. And then where does that leave us?
Yeah. That's the atrocity incident. That is 1970s science fiction writ large, right? Like, this is literally what was going on in Great Britain, thinking through, like, what happens if it's nothing but Clockwork Orange. And, well, what you get is, like, murder on tape. Let's all watch it. That's how many views?
Yeah.
You already have that. Like, that's already there. This is about things that are growing, developing, not in direct like pushing against it directly, but are doing their own thing. And I think that's where the future will come from. Yeah, because it has in the past.
I think we better put a full stop pause moment on that, and we potentially will unpack some more of that in the future with Gavin, because that's a really interesting conversation, and I think there's a lot that's cross-pollinated across the different art forms in that same area of spectacle. And we've seen it throughout most of our series of Spill the RT in the past, where we've looked at guerrilla art, we've looked at high impacts, we've looked at places that try to create awareness or try to say a statement through big spectacle art pieces, much like what you do in theater. And I think there's plenty of room to talk about that even more, so we will. But that's, I'm afraid, all we have time for today. And with that, I thank you, Gavin, for coming on and spilling some tea with us. So yay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
And we would like to also tell all of our audience members that as we come towards the Christmas period, we will be having a kind of like what do they call that, Cyber Month sort of situation. So do stay tuned to Nua Collective's art channels on Instagram and on our website, where we would talk a little bit more about that over the next coming weeks. So that
Living art
so that
from
you
living
can-
artists.
Yes, buy and support art from living artists, and all at a fraction of the cost that you would potentially spend on something rubbish from Amazon that you would probably throw out in another week or so. So stay tuned to nuacollective.com. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your podcast platforms from, and share with all of your friends. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Josh?
25.
25 next week. Don't get ahead of yourself.
25.
We're a quarter of a century.
25. We're going to be 25 in a week.
Yes. So remember, like, share, subscribe to all of your friends, and get the word out. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.